Hi everyone, welcome to channel Qtomation. In today's session we will see about web table handling. So what is exactly web table? Web table is a common UI element found on web pages that displays the data in tabular format, similar to spreadsheet. So I will show you one example. So this is one sample website, and sometimes on website we can see a data which is presented in tabular format. So it is present in the format of table. There are number of rows, there are number of columns, and every number of row and number of columns along with data in that. So these rows and columns creates a cell. So we all know about Excel sheets. Similarly, on website, data is represented in tabular format, which consists of rows and column, and in that there is data which is presented. So this element is called as web table. Web table is often used to present structured data such as list of items, records, or statistics. Each cell within the table holds a piece of information, and the rows and columns define the structure of the data. So if you see, these are some examples of web tables which are present. What is the structure of web element? So if you inspect any web element of table, so let me just inspect this web table. So let's inspect this web table element. So it is present inside the table tag. If you see, there is a table tag. Each table tag is having some identifier. So in this case, ID is product table and it is highlighting entire table. Inside the table tag, there can be presence of table head tag. So if you see this T head tag, that represents all the columns, header of columns of the table. Inside this T head tag, there are TR tags. TR tag means table row tags. So number of rows equals to TR tag. So if you see, this is one TR tag present inside the T head tag. So that is a this row. And apart from that, inside this table tag, there is T body tag. T body tag having some table rows. So this is a first row in T body which contains the data. There is another table row which contains the data, that is the second table row. There is third table row. There is fourth table row and fifth table row. So table rows comes inside the TR tag. So what is the hierarchy? Let me just show you. So there are some tags which are associated with web table. First one is table tag. Table tag is main container element of entire table. TR means table row. It represents a row within the table. TH tag represents a header cell within a row. It's typically used to define column headers. And table data tag, that is a TD tag. It represents a data cell within the row. It is used for actual data entries in the table. So if you see the hierarchy here, the main tag is table tag, which is the entire container of the web table. That table tag contains T head tag. T head tag means table column headers. And inside this T head tag, there is one single table row. Now in this table tag, there is another tag, that is T body tag, which contains the actual data body. So every T body tag is having one table row tag, and inside this TR tag there are multiple TD tag. So each TD tag means each individual cell present inside that table row. So this is first table row which contains, this is the first table data, that is we can say first cell. Another table data which contains name. Another table data which contains price. and another table data which contains this checkbox. So every table row will contain TD tags. Similarly, there are multiple table rows and each TR tag will contain table data tag, that is TD tag, and this TD tag will contain the actual data which is presented in table. So it is like a single cell in table row. So that is the structure of web table. Now we will see one practical example. So in automation, whenever we are interacting with web tables, there are multiple actions we have to perform sometime. For example, counting the number of rows, counting the number of columns, if you want to print any specific row data, if you want to print all the data, and in this table if you see there is pagination as well. So this is a page table where there are multiple pages which are present. So we will see example of every type of table here. So first in today's session we will focus on static web table. This is a simple form of web table where we have one static table which contains fixed number of rows, fixed number of columns and data in that. Now what is my use case is, I want to count number of rows and number of columns present inside this table. I want to find out number of rows and number of columns which contains the data. So if you see how many rows are there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, total 7 rows are there. So first row starts from here. This is a first row, though it contains the table header, but it is also a row only. Now depending on our requirement, we can use different approach. Now first what I want to do, I want to find out this entire table and I want to find out number of rows and number of columns present inside this table and I want to print those values. So what is the first step now? So let's go to Visual Studio Code. Inside this Visual Studio Code, I will create one new test file. I am naming it as webtable_demo.spec.js. Then we have to write our syntax. So first step is we have to import test comma expect function from Playwright test module. So we are importing this test and expect. Yes, so now we have imported this test and expect from Playwright-test module. So just a small mistake, we don't have to use round bracket here, we just have to use curly brackets. So this is our first step. After that, what is the next step now? Next step is we have to define a test block. So we have to now define a test block. So let me just write out one test block. Inside this test block, I am just giving the title, let's say demo of web table, comma, then we have to create one anonymous function. In this anonymous function, we have to pass page fixture. So I am just passing the page fixture and we have to use async keyword. And then we can start with our writing the test case. So await page dot go to, we have to first go to that web page. So let's copy the URL of this web page. So I'm just copying the URL and let's paste it here. So once you paste the URL, this command will launch the browser and it will open this URL, open this web page. And once this web page is opened, what is the next step we want to do? First, we want to capture this web table. So we have to find out the identifier of this web table. So let's try to find out some identifier of this web table. So it is present inside table tag. And what is the name? Book table. So let me write the XPath for this web table. So 2 times / table is a tag name, @name equals to book table. So if you see now, this element or XPath is highlighting the entire web table. So I'm just copying this XPath and I'm passing, let's say I'm defining my table equal to await page.locator. In this we have to pass the XPath of that web table. So this my table is now the table which we want to locate. So we have successfully located our table. What is the next step we want to do? To find out or print number of rows and columns. So I will define one variable, or let's say constant, for rows element. Now we have to find out how many rows are there in web table. So we have to first find out the locator which will be finding all the rows. We have already located this web table and we have stored that web table element in which constant? If you see the code, we have stored it in my table. So I can simply use this my table. So we have already located this my table. So after locating this my table, what we have to do? If you see inside this my table, that is table, this is one we have already located. Inside this there is t body tag, and inside that there is tr tag. So if you now see after this locator, if you put t body hyphen tr, not hyphen but /tr, if you see it is highlighting all the 7 rows. It is highlighting, this specific locator is highlighting all the 7 rows present inside this web table. So what we have to do? This /tbody/tr, we have already located this earlier part. So we have already located this web table. So now I will simply use my table, or let's say await my table dot, in that we have to pass tbody space tr, that is also fine. So I'm just passing this tbody and tr. So that will find out all the rows, and it will store in this rows element. And then we can get the count of these rows. That would be our rows count. So let's say constant rows count equal to await rows dot count method. Here we have to put my table dot locator. That is the small mistake we have done. Yeah, so now it is correct. So it will give rows count by using rows dot count method. Similarly, now we have to calculate for columns as well. So constant, I'm just defining one columns element equal to, again we have to use my table dot locator, and inside this locator, now let's try to find out columns. So if you see this element inside this web table, there is a table tag. Inside this table tag there is t body. Inside t body there is tr, and inside tr there is th tag. So number of th tags is 4. So if you see table header, so it is basically column of every header of every column. It is header of every column. So if you know how many th tags are there in this web table, that gives you number of columns count. So what is the element we can give? So t body, tr and th. So now if you see, this is highlighting all the 4 columns header. It is highlighting all the column headers. So now in our XPath, instead of XPath we can simply give like this. We have to simply give T body, then TR, and inside TR there is TH tag. So this will find out all the columns, it will store it in calls, and then we can simply get the count of columns. So calls count equals to await calls dot count. So now this will store columns count in this calls count. So now we can simply print and check after execution if we are able to get number of rows and number of column correctly or not. So I am just putting console.log rows count, which is the first one, and then calls count. So it will print rows count and columns count for that web table. And we can also put some validations as well. Let's say I'm just putting some validation. Await expect rows count dot to be method. What is the rows count we are expecting? It should be 7. And what is the column count which are we expecting? Await expect columns count dot to be, what is the column count? 4. If you see this web table, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 rows, 1 2 3 4 columns. So that is the validation which we have added. Let's save this file. Let's add some timeout. Page dot wait for timeout of 2 seconds. I am just saving this file, and now let's execute this file. So what is the command to execute the file? Npx playwright test. What is the file name? Web table underscore demo.spec.js hyphen headed, so that it will be executed in UI mode. Hyphen project equals to Chromium. So it will launch in Chromium browser. So let's execute this, and let's see, it should print number of rows count and number of columns count, and it will also perform validation, that is rows count should be 7 and columns count should be 4. So let's see whether this test case get passed or failed. So it will launch the browser. It is starting the test case now. It is launching the browser. It will open the web page. It will check for this web table. Now if you see, test case is passed. If you see the console output, test case is passed. And just above that, if you can see 7 and 4, that is the console.log statement which got printed here. So rows count is 7, column count is 4. So we are able to get rows count and column count successfully. Now what is our next step for web table? So my next requirement is, from this web table, I want to print the data, that is book name, author name, subject and price for any specific row. Let's say I want to print the data of this specific row. For this book name, I should print master in Java. I want to print entire data of this row, this specific row. Then how we can perform that action? So to perform that action, let's go to our Visual Studio Code again. What is my next step now? To print a specific data. So I want to print specific row data. I want to print row data from specific row. So now, for that, what we have to do is, we can use in Playwright, we can use rows filter as well. So there is one function called as a filter function, by which we can simply filter out with some condition. We can store entire row in one constant after using the filter. So what I will do, I will just define one row, let's say constant. Which row data we want to print? Let's say I want to print this master in Selenium. I want to print the data from this row, that is master in Selenium. So I will just copy this text master in Selenium. What I will do, I will just go to Visual Studio Code. I am defining one constant, let's say Selenium underscore row equals to, now in Playwright we can use one filter. So what I will do, we have already this rows which is stored here. This rows element is storing all the rows. This rows is containing all the rows present in the web table. So from the all these rows, so what I will do, await rows dot filter function. Rows dot filter, in this filter function, now what we will do, which filter I want to use. So I have all these rows. From these rows I want to filter based on, let's say based on text. So I am just filtering based on some text, has text, and in this I will just paste this text. So what I am doing is, I have all these rows which are stored inside the rows constant, and from that I am using filter function to filter out only row which contains master in Selenium. I want to filter out the row which contains master in Selenium. So now what we are doing here is, in this Selenium row, I am just using rows.filter. This await is actually not needed. So rows.filter has text master in Selenium. So that specific row is stored in this Selenium row. And now once you store the specific row, after that we can fetch the data one by one from every cell present in that row. So now we have stored the entire row. So Selenium row is basically this entire row. This entire row we have received now. We have got this entire row. But from entire row, again, if you see this specific row contains, let me just go to this specific row. So now we have this row. If you see, this is a row. So this specific tr tag is for this entire row that we have already captured in our code now. But from that, we have to capture the data from each td tag. So how many td tags are there? 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have to fetch the data from each td tag. So first, what I will do, first we have to define one more constant. Let's say constant all tds from this specific row. I want to fetch all the tds from this specific row. So I will just use await Selenium row dot locator, and in this locator I have to pass td. So what we are doing here, from this specific row, all the td tags we are storing in all tds. So if you see, this all tds contain all the td tag of that specific Selenium row. Now we can fetch one by one text from each td. So first, let's say constant book name equal to, we have to fetch from each, this from all tds, await all tds dot nth of 0, because this all tds contain total 4 tds. From those 4 tds we have to sequentially fetch. So first one is for book name. So from this we have to fetch the text content. So what it will do? It will capture this first td from this Selenium row, and from this first td it will capture this text. Then we have to move to next td. So this td is present on 0 index. This td is present on first index. This td is present on third index. And this is on third index. This is on second index. So index starts with 0. That's why on 0 index we have received the book name. Similarly, I am just copying it. Let's copy it. Control C. I am just copying it. Control V, Control V, Control V. After book name, what is there? Book name, then author, subject and price. So I am just copying author. This is author. It is present on which index? We have to just increase by 1, first index. After that there is subject, and then there is price, book name, author, subject and price. Let's double verify. Book name, author, subject, price. So 0 index, first index, second index, third index. So let's change the index as well. 0, first, second and third index. So it will fetch the data from all the 4 TDs one by one. And then we can simply print that data. So console.log, we can print book name, then we can print author, then we can print subject, and then we can also print price. So all the 4 values we are printing in this statement. So I hope you have understood this, how we are fetching data. So first what we have done from this entire rows. So if you see this constant which is containing rows, it contains all the rows of the web table. From these rows we have first fetched, using filter function, we have fetched specific row which contains master in Selenium, so that only the single row, so this single row we are fetching and storing in Selenium row by using filter function. And after, from this specific row there is 4 TD tags. So one by one we are fetching data from each TD tag of this specific row. So that's what we are doing in next statement. So from every, all TDs is storing basically total 4 TDs present inside this Selenium row. So here we are passing this TD and it will contain all the 4 TDs. And then one by one, by using nth of 0, nth of 1, nth of 2 and 3. One by one we are fetching the text content from those TD tags and storing in separate constants. And then we are simply printing those values here. So now let's execute this and let's see that specific row data is getting printed or not. It should ideally print total 4 values of that specific row which contains master in Selenium from this web table. So it will launch the browser now. So it should launch the browser again. It is launching the browser. It is starting the test case. It is launching the browser. It will open that web page. And from that specific table, it will first find out number of rows, number of columns, and it will print all the data. So if you see, this is the number of rows and columns which got printed, and just below that all these values also printed. If you see master in Selenium, that is the book name, this is author name, this is subject name, and this is price. Correct? So now what I have done, I have printed the data from specific row. But what we have done, so let's say now I want to print the data from next row. I want to print the data from next row or any row if I want. So every time I have to change the text here. So what I can do, instead of that, I can create one reusable function. Let's say I want to create one reusable function in which we can simply pass the text and it should automatically perform this operation, and it should print all the data from that specific row. So for that, what we can do, I can simply create a new function outside of this test. We can create a new reusable function. So how to create a function? By using function keyword. Inside this function, we can simply use one function name. Let's say print row data. Inside this print row data function, we have to pass page comma rows, which contain all the rows, page comma rows, and name of the row or the text of the row which we want to fetch the data from. And then this is a function body, and inside this function body, what I will do, so I will just paste this entire text. So I will just fetch this entire code in my reusable function. So I'm just pasting all this content in my reusable function. So here if you see await keyword is there, so before function we have to now use async keyword, then only it will work. So async, and then we are simply saving this. So now what we have to do, this is the reusable function which we have created. So it is accepting three parameters: page, rows and name. So page we are passing here, rows means we are getting all the rows of the web table here, and name is nothing but the text which we want to fetch the data from that row. So for that now we can directly use this function. So let's say I want to use this function in my code now. So what I will do, I will simply use this function in my code. So let's say I want to use this function by print row data. Inside this print row data function we have to pass page, rows, and now we just have to pass the text for the row. Any row text we can pass. So book name we have to just pass here. So if you pass learn Java, then it will print all the data from this specific row. If you pass master in Java as a book name, then it will print all the data from this specific row. Let's see now. So I'm just passing this master in Java. So I'm just passing this book name master is master in Java in that specific function. So I'm just passing it here. So let's paste it here. So I'm just passing this here. So let's execute this function now. So let's execute this code. So it should print master in Java row content. So what it will do, it will print all the content of master in Java. So let's execute this. It will start the browser, it will launch the browser, it will open the web page. It is launching the test case now. It is starting the test case. It will open the URL, and from that web table, now it should print the data from the row which has book name of master in Java. So test case is passed. In our console, if you see master in Selenium, so it is printing master in Selenium. Why so? Let's see. Yeah, so if you see in this filter we have not changed. So what happened here is, we are in this function, we are passing this value, that is master in Java. So this value is passed as a name here, but this name we are not passing here. So we have to simply use this name here. So has text, we have still this hard coded value which we have previously done. So now I am just pasting name here. So now this master in Java should be passed in this filter, and rest of the operation will perform as it is. It should print all the data from master in Java row. So let me just re-execute this file. So let's execute this file one more time. So it should launch the web page. So it should start the test case now, and it should print all the values of the row which has the book name of master in Java. Now it is launching the web page. It is opening the web page. After opening the web page, now it will print all the data. If you see, test case is passed. Now it is printing correctly. If you see, master in Java, that is the book name, author name, subject name and price. Now what is the benefit of reusable function which we have created here? So if you understand, the benefit is, now if you see, I want to print for multiple rows. So let's say I want to print the row data of 2 more rows. So what I have to do, I have to simply copy this. Let's call this reusable function again. I can call this reusable function again one more time with different book name. So now let's say along with this master in Java, Let's say master in JS as well. I want to print the row data of this last row also, that is master in JS. So I have to simply copy this master in JS book name and pass that as a value here. So it will print all the data of this master in JS row as well. Or if I say I want to print for one more row, so I will just copy and paste it here. And which row data we want to print now? So let's say I want to print for learn selenium. So first row, this also I want to print. So I want to print this data, I want to print this data, I want to print this data as well. So I'm just using my reusable function. So that is the benefit of reusable function. I'm just changing the value here, so that again this function is called 3 times with different book names. So all these 3 book name row data should be printed now. So let's save this file and let's execute this test case one more time. So it is starting the test case and it should print all the 3 row test data. So that is the benefit of this using reusable function. So now let's execute this. So it is starting the test case now. It is starting the test case. It is launching the browser. It will open the web page. It should print all the data from those 3 rows for which we have passed that book name in our reusable function. So it has opened the web page. It will print the data, it will close it. So if you see now in console, if you see the console, test case is passed and in console it has printed the data from all these 3 rows. Right, so this is how we can handle web table. So what we have seen so far, how to find out number of rows, how to find out number of columns count, and why we have found out number of rows and count, that we will see in coming session, where some operation we will do in our next session as well. For example, I want to print all the table data by using for loop. There we can use number of rows and number of columns in for loops, that we will see in our next session. We have also seen how to print a specific row data, how to find out number of rows, number of columns, that we have seen for this web table. In next example, we will see this pagination web table. So let's say I want to print all this data which is present on different web pages, So if you see, I want to print these 5 values. After that, I want to also print these next 5 values. So there is pagination also. So page data is stored in multiple pages. So this web table is having multiple pages and I want to print all the data. So how to perform that action? And let's say also I want to click some specific checkbox. Let's say I want to select this Bluetooth speaker, or let's say I want to select this laptop option. Then how we can perform these actions on web table, that we will see in our next session. So thank you for watching this video.